This is no longer your granddaddy's Minnesota Vikings defense anymore. Like this, back in the Mike Zimmer days and the 2014, his first year as a head coach, like we already knew what this defense was going to be. It was going to be top 10. It was going to be in your face, the double A gap blitz, bringing people for days, kitchen sink, just throwing it at you. Sorry, got a little bit too into it. Excuse me. Here's the thing. The Minnesota Vikings defense this year clearly wasn't it. Like, I mean, we had at least 10 games in which they allowed over 450 yards of total offense. Excuse me. It was awful, just absolutely awful. And you'll see here this little stretch here as we kind of point things out for you here. Yes, you're talking about stretches there early in the season against the Eagles as well as the Lions where you allow over 400 yards. And obviously those, obviously it's not all on the defense there because the offense was stagnant against the Eagles, but even against the Lions, man, it wasn't great. And also against the Dolphins, I know they got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and all that, but I mean over 450 yards there. Then you come back against the Cardinals. I mean, it's better overall, but then after a good week against the Commanders, you have a stretch here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Arguably 6 have another bad week against the Colts there. But you have a 5-game stretch of allowing over 400 yards of total offense. And yes, same thing against the Giants. And then in the rematch, we won't talk about that. But it's getting to the point now where rebuilding the Vikings defense is the number one priority. Like, yes, the Vikings still have issues potentially at interior offensive line as well as wide receiver. I mean, this probably most likely could be Adam Thielen's last year with the team, and I get it. But at the end of the day, this does not look great. And we can see a lot of key players for the Vikings, unfortunately, probably see their last days in the purple, which, again, I think is unfortunate because you see here in the leaders list of defensive leaders here, it's Eric Kendricks who led the way with 137 tackles this year. I mean, I know that he's a player that a lot of people have grown to love, especially like myself. But he's 30. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. Had over 130 tackles this year, but I mean, there were times where if you watch it, I know that they're learning a new scheme and everything, but a lot of it didn't look great. And also Harrison Smith, even though he had a banner year in my mind, coming back and playing and starting in 14 games, also had 5 interceptions and it was just the absolute man. Had 85 tackles this year. I mean, they drafted Lewis Seen this last year. Also, it could be one of those things where maybe he could be playing his last year in Minnesota. Also, a guy like Patrick Peterson, I don't know what they're going to do with him. He's getting up there in age. He's 32. Daniil Hunter, 28, had 10.5 sacks this year. Felt like he kind of left a lot on the table. Za'Darius Smith probably going to be gone after this year. So, there was a lot of good things. Guys like Dalvin Tomlinson that stepped up or continued to get better, But after that, like, the Vikings don't have a lot of youth on defense. Like, if we're being honest, yes, you got Cameron Bynum, but for the most part, you got Eric Kendricks, you got Daniil Hunter, you got Harrison Smith, Patrick Peterson, like the Jordan Hicks, another great example. Like, they're old and arguably they're kind of slow. Like, Brian Asamoah, when he would come in, he was kind of a fresh breath of air for the Vikings. Like, he was able to make some plays and do his thing. But overall, the number one priority for the Vikings has to be rebuilding the defense. I mean, because we've seen a lot of these players, kind of teetering on the edge of aging out. Well, we're here to say they've aged out. It is time to move on from some of these guys. Eric Kendricks will forever be in my heart. Those early Mike Zimmer years, they were a lot of fun to watch. Daniil Hunter, Harrison Smith, and all of them. Everson Griffin, it was so fun. But at the end of the day, the NFL, it's a tough business. I mean, it is definitely one of those businesses where not every good thing lasts. So I do think that the Vikings are in a position where, okay, you got a couple of pieces this year. Guys like Brian Asamoah, who's going to be back in year 2. I think he's going to have and do a lot of big things in his second year with the team. I also think, Andrew Booth Jr. is going to be another player to watch. At Caleb Evans, the corner, who I really thought showed a lot, even though he had some concussion issues early in the season. I think he's going to be a player to watch. So the Vikings have some younger players that could come back in this second year and do some things. Even guys like Lewis Seen, hopefully he gets better really quickly. I think that he could potentially still be something special. But the Vikings, I know, again, they've got issues on the interior offensive line. They potentially need to get, or at least restructure Adam Thielen. We'll see what happens there. They got Jalen Naylor and KJ Osborne and all that, but I mean, a receiver could be on the board. You could also see interior offensive line being an issue that the Vikings want to solve. So I think there's a lot of different routes, but the number one priority this offseason needs to be the defense for the Minnesota Vikings. But let us know what you guys think, and make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. It helps people find the show. We greatly appreciate all the support that we've gotten and continue to get. You guys are all truthfully awesome. We love every single one of you. Down in the description below, you'll find all of our social media platforms. So give us a like and a follow there. Also, remember to give us a listen and sub on iTunes. And finally, if you have anything else you'd like us to cover, make sure you send us an email at thesportsbp@yahoo.com or put in the comment section down below, and we would love to cover it. But let us know what you guys think about the rebuilding of the defense is the number one, or how the rebuilding of the defense is the number one priority for the Minnesota Vikings.